In 2023, security cameras at Memorial Hospital captured something unimaginable: a wild Mustang galloping through their emergency room doors. What happened next would change the lives of everyone inside forever. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Now back to the story. Dawn was just breaking over the Nevada horizon, painting the desert landscape in hues of amber and gold. Memorial Hospital was experiencing its usual shift change, nurses exchanging notes, doctors making their final rounds, and the night staff preparing to head home after another long shift. Sarah Chen, the head nurse of the pediatric ward, was updating patient charts when the first signs of commotion reached her ears. The morning calm shattered with the sound of thundering hooves against polished hospital floors. Security cameras would later show the magnificent creature, a steel-grey Mustang with a flowing black mane, galloping through the parking lot, its powerful muscles rippling with each stride. How it had made its way from the wild ranges into the city remained a mystery, but what happened next would become legend. The automatic doors of the emergency room slid open, and in an instant, the wild spirit of the Nevada desert breached the sterile confines of modern medicine. Chaos erupted as the Mustang's hooves clattered against the linoleum, sending chairs scattering and personnel diving for cover. But amidst the initial panic, something remarkable caught the attention of those present. The horse wasn't acting aggressively. Instead, it moved with an almost purposeful determination. Dr. James Morrison, who had been treating patients for over 2 decades, would later describe the scene in his journal. "In all my years of medicine, I've never seen anything like it." The horse wasn't panicked or violent. It was as if it was searching for something or someone. The security team, led by veteran officer Mike Thompson, quickly mobilized. Their training had prepared them for many scenarios: armed intruders, natural disasters, even the occasional escaped patient. But nothing in their manual covered what to do when a wild Mustang decides to make an impromptu hospital visit. As they approached with caution, the horse's behavior became even more peculiar. Instead of the expected flight response, the Mustang slowed its pace, its ears pricked forward, head held high as it moved deeper into the hospital. The morning sun streaming through the windows caught its coat, creating an almost ethereal glow. Patients and staff alike stood frozen, phones recording what would soon become one of the most extraordinary events in the hospital's history. Sarah Chen, who had made her way down to the ground floor upon hearing the commotion, noticed something that others might have missed. The Mustang's path wasn't random. It was following the signs, the same ones that guided visitors to different hospital departments. As impossible as it seemed, the horse appeared to be reading them. The morning shift change forgotten, a small procession formed behind the unexpected visitor. Security maintained a respectful distance. Medical staff watched in bewilderment, and patients emerged from their rooms, drawn by the surreal scene unfolding in their normally mundane hospital hallway. What happened in the next few moments would challenge everything these medical professionals thought they knew about the connection between humans and animals. The Mustang's presence in the hospital wasn't just a random accident or a wild animal's confusion. It was the beginning of a story that would touch lives in ways no one could have predicted. As the horse rounded the corner toward the pediatric ward, its hooves now moving with deliberate gentleness against the floor, the air seemed to charge with anticipation. No one present could explain it, but there was a collective sense that they were about to witness something extraordinary. The wild spirit of the Nevada desert had chosen this hospital for a reason, and that reason was about to become clear. The pediatric ward of Memorial Hospital had always been a place where hope and heartbreak walked hand in hand. Its walls, painted with cheerful murals of woodland creatures and circus animals, stood in stark contrast to the serious medical battles being fought within. But on this morning, those painted animals seemed to come alive as their real-life counterpart made its way through the double doors. Lucy Martinez had been in room 412 for the past 3 months. At just 8 years old, she was fighting a rare form of leukemia that had proven resistant to conventional treatments. The isolation of her condition was perhaps harder than the illness itself. No visitors her age, no pets, no connection to the outside world she desperately missed. Her window overlooked the distant mountains, and she often told her nurses she could see wild horses running free, though most assumed it was just a child's imagination seeking escape. The Mustang's hooves fell silent on the carpeted floor of the pediatric ward. Nurses frozen at their stations watched as the magnificent creature paused, its nostrils flaring as it seemed to test the air. Dr. Emily Rodriguez, the pediatric oncologist on duty, would later swear in her official report that what happened next defied all logical explanation. The horse turned its head toward room 412, its dark eyes focusing with an almost human intensity. Before anyone could react, it moved with careful precision toward Lucy's room. Security Officer Thompson reached for his tranquilizer gun, but Sarah Chen's hand stopped him. "Wait," she whispered, "just wait." Through the room's window, they could see Lucy, who had been sleeping, stir in her hospital bed. As if sensing the presence outside her door, her eyes opened. The horse's soft nickering was the only sound in the otherwise silent ward. Then, Lucy's voice, weak but filled with wonder, carried through the door. "I knew you'd come. I saw you in my dreams." The medical staff exchanged glances, their professional skepticism warring with the undeniable scene unfolding before them. Lucy, who had barely had the energy to sit up for her morning medications, was now alert and reaching toward her door. The Mustang, this wild creature that had somehow found its way through city streets and hospital corridors, stood as quietly as a trained therapy animal. Dr. Rodriguez, breaking every protocol she'd been trained to follow, made a decision that would later be questioned by hospital administration, but defended by everyone present. She slowly opened Lucy's door. The Mustang remained perfectly still, its eyes fixed on the small figure in the bed. Lucy's face, pale from months of treatment, broke into the first real smile her caregivers had seen in weeks. What happened in those next few moments would be documented in medical journals and debated in scientific circles for years to come. The wild Mustang, this symbol of untamed freedom, stepped into the room with the gentleness of a mother approaching a sleeping child. Its powerful frame, which had caused such chaos in the emergency room, now moved with incredible delicacy in the confined space. The monitors tracking Lucy's vital signs began to show remarkable changes. Her elevated heart rate, a constant concern for her medical team, began to stabilize. The tension that had gripped her small body through months of painful treatments visibly eased. And perhaps most remarkably, the fear that had become a constant companion in her eyes gave way to something else. A spark of joy that seemed to illuminate the entire room. Sarah Chen, who had been documenting Lucy's case since admission, pulled out her phone and began recording. She knew that what she was witnessing wasn't just a bizarre incident, it was a moment of pure magic, where the barriers between the wild and the civilized, the sick and the healing, seemed to dissolve completely. The next hour in Memorial Hospital's pediatric ward unfolded like a scene from a dream. Hospital administrators, alerted to the situation, rushed to the 4th floor only to find themselves struck silent by the tableau before them. Through the observation window of room 412, they watched as Lucy Martinez, their most challenging pediatric case, sat up straighter than she had in months, her hand resting gently on the Mustang's velvet muzzle. Dr. Rodriguez had positioned herself in the corner of the room, dividing her attention between the vital sign monitors and her young patient. The numbers on the screen told a story that defied medical explanation. Lucy's blood pressure, which had been consistently elevated due to pain and stress, had settled into a perfect normal range. Her oxygen saturation levels, chronically low due to her weakened state, showed marked improvement. "I've been tracking Lucy's biomarkers for the past 3 months," Dr. Rodriguez would later tell the hospital board. "In 60 minutes, we witnessed changes that usually take weeks of aggressive treatment to achieve." It was as if her body had suddenly remembered how to heal itself. Outside in the hallway, word of the extraordinary event had spread throughout the hospital. Staff members from other departments found excuses to pass by room 412, each trying to catch a glimpse of the miracle in progress. The Mustang, seemingly oblivious to the growing audience, remained focused solely on Lucy, occasionally making soft, rhythmic breathing sounds that appeared to synchronize with the child's own breathing. Sarah Chen, still recording, noticed something remarkable about Lucy's demeanor. The girl who had become withdrawn and silent during her months of treatment was now talking, not just to the horse, but to everyone who entered the room. She spoke of dreams where she ran with wild horses through vast desert landscapes, of nights when she felt a presence watching over her from the mountains visible through her window. Hospital security, led by Mike Thompson, had established a perimeter around the pediatric ward, coordinating with local animal control who waited on standby. But even the most hardened officers found themselves reluctant to intervene. "In 20 years of security work," Thompson would later report, "I've never seen an animal behave this way. It wasn't just calm, it was purposeful, almost reverent." The hospital's chief of medicine, Dr. Victoria Patel, arrived with a team of specialists, prepared to manage what they assumed would be a crisis. Instead, they found themselves documenting what would become one of the most unusual cases in medical literature. Blood samples taken from Lucy during the Mustang's visit showed something extraordinary. Her previously elevated inflammatory markers were dropping at a rate that shouldn't have been possible. As the morning progressed, other young patients in the pediatric ward began to show improvement as well. The entire floor seemed charged with an inexplicable energy. Children who had been too sick to leave their beds asked to sit in the hallway. Parents who had been maintaining anxious vigils by bedsides reported feeling a sense of peace they couldn't explain. The Mustang's presence seemed to create a ripple effect throughout the ward. The usual beeping of medical equipment, the hurried footsteps of staff, and the general tension that pervaded the hospital environment gave way to something different, a profound quiet, broken only by occasional soft whinnies and children's whispered conversations. Dr. Rodriguez, consulting with her colleagues, began formulating a theory about what they were witnessing. The medical literature had documented cases of animal therapy improving patient outcomes, but nothing on this scale. This wild Mustang, with no training or human conditioning, was somehow facilitating healing in ways that their most advanced treatments couldn't match. As the morning sun climbed higher in the Nevada sky, casting long shadows through the hospital windows, the medical team faced an unprecedented decision. Traditional protocol would demand the immediate removal of an unauthorized animal from a sterile medical environment. But as Dr. Patel noted in her report, sometimes medicine requires us to acknowledge that healing comes in forms we don't yet understand. By noon, the scene outside Memorial Hospital had transformed into a media circus. News vans lined the parking lot, their satellite dishes reaching toward the sky like mechanical sunflowers. Local reporters, who had initially dismissed the calls about a wild horse in the hospital as a prank, now jostled for position near the entrance, each hoping to catch the story that was quickly becoming a national sensation. Inside the hospital's PR director Marcus Way found himself facing an unprecedented challenge. His phone hadn't stopped ringing since Sarah Chen's video leaked onto social media. The clip, showing the gentle interaction between the wild Mustang and young Lucy, had gone viral within hours. Major networks were demanding statements, wildlife experts were calling to offer their theories, and social media was ablaze with hashtags like Nature's hospital horse and such Mustang miracle. "We need to control this narrative," Marcus argued during an emergency staff meeting. "Every specialist in the country is going to want to weigh in, and we need to protect our patients' privacy." But even as he spoke, more remarkable developments were unfolding in room 412. Lucy's latest blood work had the oncology department in a state of controlled excitement. Dr. Rodriguez, comparing the results with tests from just 24 hours earlier, could hardly believe what she was seeing. The aggressive cancer cells that had resisted months of treatment were showing signs of retreat. It wasn't remission, not yet, but it was the first positive change they'd seen in months. The Mustang, meanwhile, had settled into a corner of Lucy's room like a sentinel. Hospital maintenance had managed to provide water in a sterile container, which the horse accepted with surprising grace. More remarkably, the animal seemed to understand the need for cleanliness in the medical environment. It remained where it stood, only moving when medical staff needed access to Lucy for necessary procedures. Dr. Patel had authorized a temporary suspension of the hospital's strict visitation rules for the pediatric ward. Parents of other young patients reported that their children, many of whom had been struggling with depression alongside their physical ailments, were showing improved spirits. The sound of laughter, so rare in these halls, echoed through the corridors as children took turns watching the magnificent creature through Lucy's doorway. Outside, experts began arriving, drawn by the unprecedented nature of the event. Dr. Hannah White, a leading researcher in animal-assisted therapy from UC Davis, obtained permission to observe and document the interaction. "What we're seeing here," she noted in her preliminary findings, "challenges everything we thought we knew about the healing potential of human-animal bonds. This isn't just about comfort or emotional support. We're seeing measurable physiological changes that science can't yet explain." The local wildlife authorities, who had initially planned to remove the Mustang, found themselves in a complex ethical and legal situation. The horse was technically a wild animal, protected under federal law, yet its behavior defied everything they knew about wild Mustangs. Conservation officer Tom Running Bear, who had spent decades working with wild horses, was among the first to recognize something extraordinary. "These horses are descendants of spirits," he told reporters, drawing from his Native American heritage. "In our traditions, they are messengers between worlds. What's happening here? This is old medicine meeting new medicine." Sometimes the greatest healing comes when we stop trying to explain everything and simply accept the mystery. As afternoon approached, the hospital cafeteria had transformed into an impromptu command center. Medical staff, administrators, wildlife experts, and now government officials gathered to discuss the unprecedented situation. The question on everyone's mind: how long could they allow this to continue? The answer would require them to balance medical ethics, hospital protocols, wildlife regulations, and something else, something that none of their training had prepared them for: the possibility of witnessing a genuine miracle. As dusk settled over Memorial Hospital, the media circus outside gradually dispersed, leaving behind an almost supernatural quiet. The night shift arrived to find their usual routine altered by the extraordinary circumstances on the fourth floor. The pediatric ward, typically dimmed and hushed after sunset, maintained a gentle buzz of activity around room 412. Lucy's mother, Maria Martinez, who had been rushing back from her night shift at a local diner when the news broke, sat in quiet amazement beside her daughter's bed. For the first time in months, Lucy had eaten a full dinner. Her appetite returned as if by magic. The Mustang, still standing in its self-designated corner, seemed to watch the mother-daughter pair with profound intelligence. "He looks like the horse from my dreams, Mama," Lucy whispered, her voice stronger than it had been in weeks. "The one that used to run beside my window at night." Maria, who had spent countless nights watching her daughter battle both illness and loneliness, found herself sharing knowing glances with the wild creature as if they were somehow partners in Lucy's care. Dr. James Morrison, now back for his night rotation, conducted his evening rounds with special attention to the unprecedented situation. His decades of medical experience had taught him to trust observable data over inexplicable phenomena, but the numbers in Lucy's chart told a story that defied conventional medical wisdom. Her inflammatory markers continued to drop, her vital signs remained stable, and most remarkably, her pain scores had decreased significantly. The night nurses had developed an unusual routine around their equine visitor. Every few hours, they would quietly enter with fresh water, moving with deliberate slowness to avoid startling the animal. But their caution proved unnecessary. The Mustang's behavior remained as composed as it had been since its arrival, its eyes always returning to Lucy after acknowledging each hospital staff member. Around midnight, Sarah Chen, who had chosen to stay well past her shift, witnessed something that would later become a crucial part of the documented events. The hospital's lights had been dimmed, and most patients were asleep. In the soft glow of medical monitors, she observed the Mustang slowly approach Lucy's bed. The animal lowered its head until its muzzle was level with Lucy's sleeping form, and then began to breathe in a slow, rhythmic pattern. To Chen's amazement, Lucy's breathing synchronized with the horse's, their chests rising and falling in perfect harmony. The monitors showed her oxygen saturation levels climbing steadily. Chen quickly grabbed her phone, determined to document this extraordinary moment for the medical record. Down in the hospital's research library, Dr. Rodriguez and Dr. White had spent hours poring over medical literature, searching for any precedent for what they were witnessing. They found cases of animal therapy providing emotional support, instances of pets detecting illness, but nothing that could explain the physiological changes they were observing in Lucy and the other pediatric patients. "There's something about wild animals," Dr. White mused, reviewing her notes. "They haven't been conditioned by human expectations. What we're seeing here might be a pure form of healing that we've lost touch with in our modern medical approach." As the night deepened, Security Officer Thompson made his regular rounds with a new sense of purpose. The Mustang's presence had changed something fundamental about the hospital's atmosphere. The usual tension and anxiety that pervaded night shifts had been replaced by an almost reverential calm. Even the usual mechanical sounds of hospital equipment seemed muted, as if in deference to the extraordinary events unfolding. In room 412, Lucy slept peacefully for the first time in months, her small hand resting on her blanket, fingers slightly curled as if holding invisible reins. The Mustang maintained its vigil, its wild spirit somehow perfectly adapted to this sterile environment. Through the window, the distant mountains were visible under a bright moon, and somewhere in those hills, other wild horses ran free. But this one, for reasons still unknown, had chosen to stand guard over a sick child, bridging the gap between the natural world and human medicine in ways that would forever change everyone involved. The second dawn at Memorial Hospital arrived. With an air of anticipation, the early morning light filtered through the windows of room 412, casting a golden glow on an unprecedented scene. Lucy Martinez, who had slept through the night without pain medication for the first time in months, was sitting up in bed, color in her cheeks, while the wild Mustang stood nearby, its coat shimmering in the morning light. Dr. Rodriguez arrived, early, armed with the results from Lucy's latest blood work. The lab technicians had run the tests 3 times, refusing to believe the initial results. The aggressive cancer cells that had resisted every traditional treatment were showing significant signs of deterioration. More remarkably, Lucy's immune system, previously suppressed by both disease and treatment, showed signs of unprecedented activation. "It's as if her body has found a new way to fight," Dr. Rodriguez explained to the gathering of specialists in the conference room. She projected the before and after images of Lucy's cell counts onto the screen, drawing gasps from her colleagues. These changes aren't just significant, they're paradigm-shifting. Meanwhile, the pediatric ward had transformed overnight. Other young patients, inspired by Lucy's story, asked to be wheeled closer to room 412. The hospital staff, working with child life specialists, had organized a careful rotation, allowing each child a few minutes to observe the magnificent creature. The impact was immediately noticeable. 10-year-old Tommy Chen, recovering from a difficult bone marrow transplant, reported feeling strong enough to walk for the first time in weeks after spending just 15 minutes near the Mustang. 7-year-old Sophia Patel, who had stopped speaking after a traumatic accident, began whispering questions about the horse to her nurses. Each case added another layer to the growing mystery. Dr. Hannah White, continuing her observation, noticed something extraordinary about the Mustang's behavior. The animal seemed to respond differently to each child, adjusting its posture and breathing patterns to match their needs. With anxious children, it remained perfectly still, emanating a calm that seemed almost tangible. With withdrawn patients, it would make soft, nickering sounds, encouraging interaction. "We're documenting instances of what appears to be intentional therapeutic behavior in a wild animal," Dr. White dictated into her recorder. "This challenges everything we know about animal cognition and healing instincts." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The hospital's research team had set up sophisticated monitoring equipment around room 412, measuring everything from air quality to electromagnetic fields, searching for any scientific explanation for the extraordinary events. The readings showed subtle but consistent anomalies, patterns of energy that didn't match any known medical or environmental phenomena. Lucy's mother, who had finally been convinced to take a short break to shower and change clothes, returned to find her daughter, engaged in animated conversation with her nurses. The girl, who had barely been able to lift her head a day ago, was now asking about the other children in the ward, expressing concern for their well-being. "The horse knows they're hurting too, Mama," Lucy explained with the simple wisdom of a child. "That's why it came here, not just for me, for all of us." The Mustang's presence had begun to affect the hospital staff as well. Nurses reported feeling unusually energized, despite long shifts. Dr. Morrison, known for his strict adherence to scientific methodology, found himself lingering in room 412, taking notes on phenomena that defied medical explanation. By mid-morning, the hospital's administrative team faced mounting pressure from medical institutions around the world. Research facilities offered substantial grants to study the phenomenon. Prestigious medical journals requested exclusive rights to publish the findings. But Dr. Patel remained firm in her decision to prioritize patient care over scientific ambition. "What we're witnessing here goes beyond research opportunities," she announced during the morning briefing. "We're seeing healing in its most fundamental form, a reminder that medicine isn't just about protocols and procedures. Sometimes it's about making space for miracles we don't yet understand." As the morning progressed, Lucy asked for something she hadn't wanted in months, her sketchbook. As the hospital staff watched in amazement, she began to draw, her pictures filled with horses running through desert landscapes under starlit skies. In the corner of each drawing, she included a single Mustang, its eyes carrying the same knowing look as their extraordinary visitor. Late morning brought an unexpected visitor to Memorial Hospital, Jack Whitehorse, a veteran wild horse specialist from the Bureau of Land Management. His weathered face and quiet demeanor commanded immediate respect as he made his way through the bustling hospital corridors. But it was what he carried in his hands that would add another extraordinary layer to the unfolding mystery. "I've been tracking Mustang herds in these parts for 30 years, he explained to Dr. Patel and the assembled medical team, spreading out a series of photographs on the conference room table. "And this particular horse, we've got a history." The photographs, taken over several years, showed a distinctive steel-grey Mustang with unique markings that matched their visitor perfectly. But it was the context of these images that left the room in stunned silence. In each photograph, spanning different locations and seasons, the Mustang appeared near humans in distress. A lost hiker being guided back to a trail, a stranded motorist, finding their way to safety, and most remarkably, a child who had wandered from a camping site being watched over until rescue teams arrived. "The local tribes call it medicine horse," Whitehorse explained, his voice carrying the weight of generations of stories. "There are legends about special horses that appear when healing is needed most. We've never been able to catch or tag this one. It appears and vanishes like a ghost." In room 412, oblivious to the revelations about its past, the Mustang maintained its gentle vigilance over Lucy. The young girl had grown stronger by the hour, now sitting cross-legged on her bed, teaching other young patients how to draw horses. The room had become a makeshift art studio, with drawings covering the walls, each picture capturing something of the Mustang's mysterious presence. Dr. Rodriguez, reviewing the latest batch of test results with Dr. White, found herself questioning everything she knew about healing. Lucy's cancer cells continued their unprecedented retreat, but it wasn't just the numbers that had changed. There was something about the pattern of healing that defied conventional medical understanding. "It's as if the presence of this horse has awakened something dormant in her immune system," Dr. White observed, comparing microscope slides. "Something ancient, something we might have lost touch with in our modern approach to medicine." The Mustang's impact had begun to attract attention from unexpected quarters. A group of quantum physicists from a nearby university had requested permission to set up sensitive equipment around room 412. Their preliminary readings suggested unusual energy patterns that defied explanation, harmonics that seemed to synchronize with the children's own biological rhythms. Sarah Chen, reviewing her extensive documentation of the events, noticed something that had escaped initial observation. In every video clip, every photograph, the Mustang's position in the room aligned perfectly with the rising and setting sun, as if it were not just a healer, but a conduit for something larger, a bridge between the natural world and the sterile confines of modern medicine. Lucy, growing stronger by the hour, shared stories of her dreams with anyone who would listen. She spoke of galloping through star-filled nights, of ancient healing grounds where horses and humans once gathered, of wisdom passed down through the ages. Her oncologists noted that while her language seemed beyond her years, her vital signs grew stronger with each story she told. The hospital chaplain, Rabbi David Cohen, who had been observing the events with quiet interest, offered his own perspective during the afternoon staff meeting. Throughout history, across cultures, horses have been seen as messengers between worlds. Perhaps what we're witnessing isn't just a medical mystery, but a reminder of connections we've forgotten. As evening approached, Whitehorse shared one final piece of information that added to the growing sense of destiny surrounding these events. The location where Lucy had first reported seeing horses from her window aligned perfectly with an ancient healing site used by indigenous peoples for generations. The hospital, it seemed, had been built on ground long known for its restorative properties. Some places, Whitehorse explained, looking out at the distant mountains now painted in sunset colors, remember their purpose, and sometimes they send us reminders of what we need to remember too. The third day at Memorial Hospital began with a flurry of scientific activity. A team of researchers from Johns Hopkins had arrived overnight, their equipment filling an adjacent room with an array of sophisticated monitoring devices. Dr. Elena Santos, a leading expert in biofield research, moved through room 412 with handheld sensors, her eyes widening at each new reading. "There's something here we've never seen before," she explained to Dr. Rodriguez, pointing to the wavelength patterns on her tablet. "The energy signature around the Mustang isn't just unique, it's interactive. It seems to respond to and harmonize with each patient's biological rhythms." Lucy, now strong enough to sit in a chair by the window, had become an unexpected bridge between the scientific team and the other young patients. She explained the Mustang's healing presence in ways that made sense to both the researchers and her fellow patients. "It's like music you can't hear," she told them, "but your whole body can feel it." The other children in the pediatric ward had developed their own theories about their extraordinary visitor. 10-year-old Tommy, his bone marrow transplant showing unprecedented signs of success, insisted the horse was a guardian angel in disguise. Sophia, who had progressed from whispers to full conversations, believed it was a magical being from her favorite fairy tales. Dr. White, continuing her behavioral observations, documented a fascinating pattern. The Mustang seemed to know exactly when to move between patients, spending more time with those in greater distress, as if it could sense their levels of pain or anxiety. More remarkably, the timing of these movements corresponded with measurable changes in the children's vital signs. "We're seeing a form of intuitive medicine that goes beyond anything in the scientific literature," Dr. White noted in her research log. "It's as if this animal understands healing at a fundamental level we're only beginning to grasp." The hospital's pharmacy reported another inexplicable phenomenon, a significant decrease in the demand for pain medication across the pediatric ward. Children who had previously required regular doses were now managing with minimal intervention. The Mustang's presence seemed to trigger the release of natural endorphins in ways that modern medicine had been unable to replicate. Meanwhile, the quantum physics team had made a startling discovery. The energy patterns they detected around the Mustang showed striking similarities to those found in ancient healing sites around the world. Dr. Marcus Chen, the lead physicist, could barely contain his excitement as he shared the data. "These frequencies match those recorded at sacred spaces in Delphi, Lourdes, and several Native American healing grounds," he explained. "It's as if this horse is a living embodiment of these ancient healing energies." Lucy's latest round of tests continued to baffle the medical team. The aggressive cancer cells that had resisted months of traditional treatment were now behaving in ways that defied oncological understanding. Instead of dying off, they appeared to be transforming, becoming harmless, as if reprogrammed at a cellular level. Sarah Chen, who had been documenting every aspect of these extraordinary events, noticed something else. The children's artwork, covering nearly every available surface in the pediatric ward, had begun to show remarkable similarities. Regardless of age or artistic ability, each child seemed to capture something of the Mustang's healing energy in their drawings, a luminous quality that shouldn't have been possible with simple crayons and markers. Late in the afternoon, the hospital hosted an impromptu gathering in the pediatric ward's common area. Young patients, medical staff, researchers, and family members shared stories of the changes they'd witnessed. The Mustang, as if acknowledging its role in bringing this community together, stood in the doorway of Lucy's room, its presence both powerful and gentle. Dr. Santos, reviewing the day's data with her team, summed up what many were thinking. "We're not just witnessing a medical mystery here. We're seeing the emergence of a new understanding of healing itself, one that bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and modern science. And somehow, this extraordinary creature is showing us the way. The third day at Memorial Hospital began with a flurry of scientific activity. A team of researchers from Johns Hopkins had arrived overnight, their equipment filling an adjacent room with an array of sophisticated monitoring devices. Dr. Elena Santos, a leading expert in biofield research, moved through room 412 with handheld sensors, her eyes widening at each new reading. "There's something here we've never seen before," she explained to Dr. Rodriguez, pointing to the wavelength patterns on her tablet. "The energy signature around the Mustang isn't just unique, it's interactive. It seems to respond to and harmonize with each patient's biological rhythms." Lucy, now strong enough to sit in a chair by the window, had become an unexpected bridge between the scientific team and the other young patients. She explained the Mustang's healing presence in ways that made sense to both the researchers and her fellow patients. "It's like music you can't hear," she told them, "but your whole body can feel it." The other children in the pediatric ward had developed their own theories about their extraordinary visitor, 10-year-old Tommy, his bone marrow transplant showing unprecedented signs of success, insisted the horse was a guardian angel in disguise. Sophia, who had progressed from whispers to full conversations, believed it was a magical being from her favorite fairy tales. Dr. White, continuing her behavioral observations, documented a fascinating pattern. The Mustang seemed to know exactly when to move between patients, spending more time with those in greater distress, as if it could sense their levels of pain or anxiety. More remarkably, the timing of these movements corresponded with measurable changes in the children's vital signs. "We're seeing a form of intuitive medicine that goes beyond anything in the scientific literature," Dr. White noted in her research log. "It's as if this animal understands healing at a fundamental level we're only beginning to grasp." The hospital's pharmacy reported another inexplicable phenomenon: a significant decrease in the demand for pain medication across the pediatric ward. Children who had previously required regular doses were now managing with minimal intervention. The Mustang's presence seemed to trigger the release of natural endorphins in ways that modern medicine had been unable to replicate. Meanwhile, the quantum physics team had made a startling discovery. The energy patterns they detected around the Mustang showed striking similarities to those found in ancient healing sites around the world. Dr. Chen, the lead physicist, could barely contain his excitement as he shared the data. "These frequencies match those recorded at sacred spaces in Delphi, Lourdes, and several Native American healing grounds," he explained. "It's as if this horse is a living embodiment of these ancient healing energies." Lucy's latest round of tests continued to baffle the medical team. The aggressive cancer cells that had resisted months of traditional treatment were now behaving in ways that defied oncological understanding. Instead of dying off, they appeared to be transforming, becoming harmless, as if reprogrammed at a cellular level. Sarah Chen, who had been documenting every aspect of these extraordinary events, noticed something else. The children's artwork, covering nearly every available surface in the pediatric ward, had begun to show remarkable similarities. Regardless of age or artistic ability, each child seemed to capture something of the Mustang's healing energy in their drawings, a luminous quality that shouldn't have been possible with simple crayons and markers. Late in the afternoon, the hospital hosted an impromptu gathering in the pediatric ward's common area. Young patients, medical staff, researchers, and family members shared stories of the changes they'd witnessed. The Mustang, as if acknowledging its role in bringing this community together, stood in the doorway of Lucy's room, its presence both powerful and gentle. Dr. Santos, reviewing the day's data with her team, summed up what many were thinking. We're not just witnessing a medical mystery here. We're seeing the emergence of a new understanding of healing itself, one that bridges the gap between ancient wisdom and modern science. And somehow, this extraordinary creature is showing us the way. On the fourth morning, Dr. Rodriguez stood before her colleagues in the hospital's main conference room, her hands trembling slightly as she presented Lucy's latest test results. The images on the screen told a story that would soon challenge the foundations of modern medicine. The aggressive cancer cells that had dominated Lucy's system for months were now almost completely gone, replaced by healthy tissue in a pattern that defied medical explanation. What we're seeing isn't just remission, she explained, her voice steady despite her excitement. The cancer cells haven't just died off. They've transformed. It's as if they've been reprogrammed at a fundamental level. Meanwhile, Jack Whitehorse had made another discovery that added depth to the unfolding mystery. Working with local archaeologists, he had uncovered evidence that the hospital grounds once served as a gathering place for indigenous healing ceremonies. Ancient petroglyphs found during emergency excavation work for a new wing showed horses, in circular patterns, surrounded by symbols of healing and transformation. The old ones spoke of places where the veil between worlds grows thin, Whitehorse explained to Dr. Patel and her team, spreading out photographs of the petroglyphs. They believed certain horses could walk between these worlds, bringing medicine that goes beyond the physical. In room 412, Lucy had begun sharing dreams that seemed to echo these ancient stories. She spoke of galloping through star-filled skies with the Mustang, visiting places where healing flowed like water from mountain springs. Dr. White, documenting these narratives, noticed striking parallels between Lucy's descriptions and healing. Traditions found across multiple cultures. The quantum physics team, led by Dr. Chen, had detected something extraordinary. The energy patterns around the Mustang showed perfect resonance with the natural electromagnetic field of the hospital grounds. It was as if the horse had been drawn to this specific location by forces science was only beginning to understand. We're measuring what the ancients knew intuitively, Dr. Chen explained, pointing to his instrument's readings. This place, this horse, and these healing patterns, they're all connected in ways our equipment can barely detect, let alone explain. Sarah Chen, reviewing her extensive documentation, noticed another pattern emerging. The timing of the most significant improvements in patients' conditions corresponded with moments when the Mustang aligned itself with the rising or setting sun. These periods showed the strongest energy readings on Dr. Chen's instruments and coincided with the children's reports of feeling golden warmth throughout their bodies. The hospital's other young patients continued to show remarkable improvements. Tommy's bone marrow transplant had taken hold with unprecedented success. Sophia had not only regained her voice, but was now helping younger children process their own healing experiences through art and storytelling. Each success seemed to strengthen the collective healing energy that had transformed the pediatric ward. Dr. Santos, working with her biofield research team, made a breakthrough in understanding the mechanism behind these transformations. The Mustang appeared to be acting as a living amplifier, strengthening the natural healing energies of the location while somehow tuning them to each patient's specific needs. It's like discovering a missing link in our understanding of healing, she explained during an impromptu gathering of medical staff. This horse isn't just facilitating healing, it's teaching us about a form of medicine we've forgotten. Late that afternoon, Lucy asked to be wheeled out to the hospital's garden courtyard, where she sat in the waning sunlight with the Mustang standing guard nearby. As medical staff and researchers watched through the windows, she began to sing, a melody none of them had heard before, but which seemed to resonate with both the horse and the land itself. Dr. Morrison, who had maintained his scientific skepticism throughout the events, found himself unable to deny the transformation he was witnessing. "In all my years of medicine," he wrote in his journal that evening, "I've never seen healing that encompasses not just the body, but the spirit of an entire community. We're not just treating illness anymore. We're remembering what it truly means to be whole." The story of Memorial Hospital's miraculous Mustang had spread far beyond Nevada's borders. By the fifth day, the hospital's administrative office was fielding calls from healing centers across the globe. Dr. Patel's inbox was flooded with reports of similar phenomena, stories of wild animals appearing at moments of medical crisis, each account adding another piece to an emerging pattern. A Buddhist monastery in Tibet shared ancient scrolls depicting horses with healing powers. A hospital in Ireland reported a wild stallion appearing near their oncology ward during the previous month's full moon. From Australia's outback came stories of brumbies leading lost children to safety. Each account seemed to echo what was happening in room 412. Dr. Isabella Reyes, a cultural anthropologist specializing in healing traditions, arrived from Mexico City with a collection of pre-Columbian artifacts. Spread across the conference room table, these ancient pieces told a story that stretched back millennia. "These aren't just coincidences," she explained, pointing to recurring symbols of horses and healing. "What we're witnessing here is the re-emergence of something that existed long before modern medicine, a connection between the natural world and human healing that spans cultures and centuries." Lucy, whose recovery had become the centerpiece of this global phenomenon, seemed to understand intuitively what the experts were struggling to explain. During her daily art therapy sessions, she created images that bore striking resemblances to the ancient artifacts Dr. Reyes had brought, despite never having seen them. "The horse says there are others like him," Lucy told Dr. White during their morning session. "They're waiting for people to remember how to see them again." The Mustang's behavior had begun to show new patterns. Each morning at dawn, it would face east, its body perfectly still, as if gathering energy from the rising sun. The quantum physics team's instruments recorded massive spikes in electromagnetic activity during these moments, coinciding with noticeable improvements in patients' conditions throughout the ward. Dr. Santos's research team made a groundbreaking discovery when they compared their readings from Memorial Hospital with data collected from known healing sites around the world. The energy signature surrounding the Mustang matched perfectly with patterns recorded at places like Lourdes, France, and the hot springs of Pamukkale, Turkey. These sites have been known for their healing properties for thousands of years, Dr. Santos explained during an international video conference. "What we're seeing suggests that certain locations and certain creatures can act as focal points for natural healing energies that modern science is only beginning to understand." The hospital's young patients had formed their own global connections. Through video calls facilitated by the Child Life Department, they shared their experiences with children in hospitals around the world. Their artwork, stories, and healing journeys became part of a growing tapestry of hope that transcended language and culture. Sarah Chen's documentation of the events had evolved into a collaborative international project. Researchers from different disciplines and cultures contributed their perspectives, creating a rich narrative that bridged the gap between scientific observation and ancient wisdom. As evening approached, the hospital hosted a unique gathering. On video screens throughout the pediatric ward, healing practitioners from various traditions shared their insights. A Maori elder spoke of ancient connections between animals and healing. A Chinese medicine doctor explained concepts of qi that aligned perfectly with Dr. Chen's quantum measurements. A Navajo medicine man shared songs that seemed to resonate with the energy patterns the research team had recorded. The Mustang, standing in its usual place near Lucy's bed, appeared to respond to each transmission. Its presence seemed to grow stronger, more purposeful, as if drawing strength from this global recognition of its role in a larger story. Dr. Patel, addressing the international audience, spoke for many when she said, "What began as a local miracle has become a global reminder. We're rediscovering that healing isn't bound by hospital walls or medical procedures. It's a force that connects us all, transcending borders and beliefs, waiting for us to remember its true nature." The sixth day at Memorial Hospital began with an unsettling discovery. Dr. Rodriguez, reviewing Lucy's latest test results, noticed something that sent ripples of concern through the medical team. While the cancer cells continued their unprecedented retreat, Lucy's body was showing signs of stress from the rapid changes taking place within her system. "It's as if her healing is happening too quickly," Dr. Rodriguez explained to her colleagues during an emergency meeting. "Her body is struggling to keep pace with its own recovery. We've never seen anything like this. There's no medical protocol for managing healing that exceeds normal biological limits." The Mustang seemed to sense the shift in energy. Its behavior changed subtly but noticeably. Instead of standing in its usual spot by Lucy's bed, it began moving in slow, deliberate circles around her room. Dr. White, who had been documenting the horse's every movement, recognized a pattern that matched ancient healing rituals depicted in the petroglyphs beneath the hospital. "It's not just pacing," she observed, comparing her notes with White Horse's archaeological findings. "These are the same circular patterns shown in the ancient healing ceremonies. The horse is trying to tell us something about the rhythm of healing itself." Lucy, despite her improved condition, had grown unusually quiet. Her previously vibrant drawings took on darker tones, filled with swirling energies and celestial patterns. When asked about the change, she spoke in metaphors that seemed beyond her years. "The medicine is like a river," she explained to Sarah Chen, who had become a constant presence in her room. "Sometimes it needs to flow slower, or the banks will break." Dr. Santos's biofield measurements confirmed what Lucy had expressed through her art. The energy patterns around the Mustang had intensified to levels that threatened to overwhelm the hospital's monitoring equipment. The quantum physics team worked frantically to understand what was happening. "The horse isn't just channeling healing energy anymore," Dr. Chen explained, pointing to his readings. "It's actively modulating it, trying to find a sustainable frequency that Lucy's body can handle." The other children in the pediatric ward sensed the tension. Tommy, whose own recovery had been progressing steadily, suggested they form a healing circle, something he'd learned about from his grandmother's indigenous traditions. The child life specialists, recognizing the wisdom in his suggestion, helped arrange the children in a gentle arc around Lucy's room. What happened next would be documented in dozens of scientific journals and debated for years to come. As the children joined hands, the Mustang's circular movement synchronized with their presence. Dr. Santos's instruments recorded a gradual stabilization of the energy fields. Lucy's vital signs, which had been erratic, began to steady. "The children are acting as natural conductors," Dr. Santos realized, watching the readings normalize. "They're helping to ground and distribute the healing energy, making it safer for Lucy's system to process." Dr. Patel, who had been conferring with specialists around the world, received guidance from an unexpected source. A small monastery in Bhutan shared ancient texts describing similar phenomena, cases where healing needed to be tempered, allowed to integrate more gradually with the body's natural rhythms. The Mustang, as if acknowledging this ancient wisdom, adjusted its movements. Its circles became slower, more deliberate. The frantic energy that had filled the room began to settle into something more sustainable. Lucy's breathing deepened, and her color improved. Maria Martinez, who had maintained a constant vigil by her daughter's bedside, noticed something in the Mustang's eyes, a depth of understanding that transcended any normal animal awareness. "It's not just healing her," she whispered to Dr. Rodriguez. "It's teaching her body how to heal itself." As evening approached, the crisis had passed. Lucy's system stabilized, finding a new balance between rapid healing and sustainable recovery. The medical team, reviewing the day's events, realized they had witnessed something profound, not just about healing, but about the delicate dance between transformation and integration. The Mustang returned to its usual spot by Lucy's bed, but something had changed. Its presence now carried a new quality, not just of healing, but of wisdom about the proper pace of miracle. The seventh day at Memorial Hospital dawned with a profound sense of transformation. The previous day's crisis had sparked a fundamental shift in how the medical team approached the extraordinary healing taking place within their walls. Doctor, preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Patel had called an early morning meeting that would reshape their entire understanding of medicine. "Yesterday taught us something crucial," she addressed the assembled staff, researchers and visiting experts. "We've been so focused on measuring and documenting the healing that we almost missed its most important lesson, the wisdom of balance." The Mustang's intervention during Lucy's crisis had revealed patterns that Dr. Santos and her team were only beginning to understand. Their instruments had captured something remarkable during the critical moments, a perfect harmonic resonance between the horse's movement, the children's healing circle, and the ancient energy patterns of the land itself. "It's like discovering a universal language of healing," Dr. Santos explained, displaying her findings. "The Mustang isn't just facilitating healing, it's teaching us about natural rhythms that modern medicine has forgotten." Lucy, now stable and stronger than ever, had begun sharing more detailed accounts of her experiences during the previous day's events. Her descriptions matched ancient healing practices so precisely that Dr. Reyes, the cultural anthropologist, was moved to tears. "She's speaking of healing methods that haven't been documented in centuries," Dr. Reyes explained, comparing Lucy's words with her research. "It's as if the Mustang has awakened some dormant understanding within her." The other children in the pediatric ward had been profoundly affected by their role in stabilizing Lucy's healing. Tommy, whose bone marrow transplant was now showing unprecedented success, described feeling connected to something bigger during the healing circle. Sophia, whose trauma-induced silence was now a distant memory, spoke of seeing colors and patterns that exactly matched Dr. Chen's quantum measurements. Dr. White's behavioral observations of the Mustang revealed new insights. The horse had begun interacting with the children in ways that seemed to teach rather than just heal. Its movements, sounds, and even its periods of stillness appeared to demonstrate principles of energy flow and balance. "It's not just about making them well," she noted in her research log. "It's about showing them, showing all of us, how to maintain wellness in harmony with natural laws." Sarah Chen, reviewing weeks of accumulated footage, made a startling discovery. The Mustang's behavior had been subtly changing from the beginning, following a pattern that only became clear after the crisis. Each phase of its presence corresponded to ancient healing stages documented in traditions around the world. Dr. Morrison, whose initial skepticism had long since transformed into wonder, proposed a new theory during the afternoon research session. "What if this isn't just about healing illness?" he suggested. "What if we're being shown a new, or perhaps very old, way of understanding health itself?" The hospital's approach to patient care began to shift in response to these insights. The pediatric ward's schedule was adjusted to align with natural rhythms of day and night. Treatment plans were modified to include periods of rest and integration. The Children's Healing Circle became a regular practice, recognized for its power to stabilize and distribute healing energies. As evening approached, Lucy asked for her art supplies again. But this time, instead of drawing what she saw, she began creating instructional diagrams, detailed illustrations of energy flows, healing patterns, and the delicate balance between transformation and integration. The images were so precise that Dr. Chen's team began using them to calibrate their instruments. The Mustang, standing in its place by Lucy's bed, seemed different now. Its presence had taken on an almost teacherly quality. Each gesture, each movement, appeared to demonstrate principles that the hospital staff were only beginning to grasp. Dr. Patel, watching the interaction between the horse and the children, realized they were witnessing something far beyond their initial expectations. "We thought we were documenting a miracle," she told her colleagues. "Instead, we're being given a master class in the very nature of healing itself." The 8th day brought a revelation that would shake the foundations of medical history. Dr. Reyes, who had been comparing Lucy's drawings with ancient healing manuscripts from around the world, made a discovery that left the research team speechless. Spread across her office walls were Lucy's recent artwork, alongside historical documents from different cultures and eras. The similarities were undeniable. "These patterns," Dr. Reyes explained, pointing to a series of intricate spirals in Lucy's drawings, "are identical to healing mandalas found in Tibetan medical texts from the 12th century. And these energy flow diagrams match Chinese meridian maps that predate modern medicine by thousands of years." Lucy, unaware of the stir her artwork had created, continued to produce more drawings with increasingly complex patterns. When asked about her inspiration, she simply pointed to the Mustang. "I draw what it shows me in my dreams," she explained. "It's like watching a story about how everything is connected." Dr. Santos's research team had begun incorporating Lucy's diagrams into their scientific analysis. To their amazement, the patterns she drew perfectly predicted the energy fluctuations their instruments recorded around the Mustang. The horse's daily movements through the pediatric ward traced the same sacred geometries found in Lucy's artwork and the ancient texts. "She's not just copying these patterns," Dr. Santos realized. "She's receiving direct transmission of healing knowledge that modern science is only beginning to rediscover." The hospital administration, led by Dr. Patel, made a bold decision. They would begin integrating these rediscovered principles into their standard medical practices. The pediatric ward became a living laboratory where ancient wisdom and modern medicine found common ground. Treatment rooms were reorganized according to the energy flow patterns Lucy had drawn. Medical procedures were timed to align with the natural rhythms the Mustang had demonstrated. Even the hospital's architecture team began consulting Lucy's diagrams as they planned renovations to optimize healing energy circulation. The Mustang's behavior seemed to approve of these changes. Its movements through the ward became more deliberate, often pausing at specific points that corresponded to important intersections in Lucy's diagrams. Dr. White noticed that these stopping points aligned perfectly with areas where patients reported the strongest healing sensations. "It's teaching us to read the invisible architecture of healing," she noted in her research journal. "Every movement is a lesson in the language of natural medicine." Maria Martinez, watching her daughter work on increasingly complex drawings, shared a memory with Sarah Chen. "When Lucy was first diagnosed, she told me she needed to find the horse that knows the way home. I thought it was just the fever." In talking, now I understand she wasn't talking about finding her way home from the hospital. She was talking about finding her way back to health. The other children in the ward had become active participants in this revolution of healing. They began incorporating the patterns from Lucy's drawings into their play therapy, creating games that mimicked the energy flows. Their recovery rates continued to surpass all medical expectations. Dr. Morrison, working with the quantum physics team, made another breakthrough. The energy patterns Lucy drew matched electromagnetic frequencies found in healthy cellular activity. "She's mapping the body's natural healing frequencies," he explained. "These aren't just beautiful patterns, they're scientific blueprints for optimal health." As evening approached, Lucy completed her most complex drawing yet, a massive mandala that seemed to pulse with its own energy. The Mustang, standing nearby, nickered softly as she added the final details. Dr. Reyes, comparing it to her historical documents, found identical patterns in healing temples across multiple continents and centuries. "This isn't just recovering ancient knowledge," Dr. Reyes told the assembled team. "We're witnessing the birth of a bridge between humanity's oldest healing wisdom and the future of medicine. And somehow, this extraordinary horse and this remarkable child are helping us build it." The 9th day at Memorial Hospital marked the beginning of a medical revolution. News of the unprecedented healing and Lucy's remarkable drawings had spread through the medical community like wildfire. By morning, the hospital's secure servers were overwhelmed with requests from medical institutions worldwide, all eager to implement what was now being called the Mustang Protocol. Dr. Patel found herself conducting virtual tours of the transformed pediatric ward for leading hospitals across 5 continents. The cameras followed her through corridors now arranged according to Lucy's energy flow patterns, past treatment rooms where ancient healing geometries had been subtly incorporated into modern medical spaces. "What we're seeing here isn't just a single miracle," she explained to her global audience. "It's the renaissance of a healing wisdom that belongs to all of humanity." Meanwhile, Lucy had made a request that seemed to unlock another layer of understanding. She asked to visit other departments in the hospital, accompanied by the Mustang. Dr. Rodriguez, after careful consideration, agreed. What followed would reshape their understanding of the horse's purpose. As Lucy walked beside the Mustang through different hospital wings, she began creating new drawings specific to each medical specialty. In the cardiac unit, her patterns resembled the heart's electromagnetic field. In the neurology department, they mapped previously unknown neural pathways. Each drawing seemed perfectly tailored to the healing needs of different conditions. "The horse isn't just healing," Lucy explained to Dr. White as they walked. "It's teaching us how to see what needs to be healed. Every place has its own song of getting better." Dr. Santos's team, following with their instruments, recorded unique energy signatures in each department. The Mustang's presence appeared to activate specific healing frequencies depending on the medical conditions it encountered. More remarkably, these frequencies persisted even after the horse had moved on. "It's like it's leaving energetic blueprints," Dr. Santos observed, "teaching the very space how to hold healing energy." The quantum physics team made another groundbreaking discovery. The patterns the Mustang traced in its movements weren't random. They formed a complex mathematical sequence that exactly matched the golden ratio found in natural growth patterns. Dr. Chen's calculations showed that these movements were gradually transforming the hospital's entire energetic environment. Sarah Chen, who had been documenting the Mustang's journey through the hospital, noticed something extraordinary in her footage. The horse's interactions with different patients, when mapped over time, created a larger pattern that matched ancient symbols for transformation and renewal. The impact on patients throughout the hospital was profound. Recovery rates improved across all departments. Surgical patients required less anesthesia and showed faster healing. Even the hospital staff reported feeling more energized and focused. In areas where the Mustang had visited, Dr. Reyes, continuing her research into historical healing practices, made another significant connection. The Mustang isn't just sharing healing knowledge, she explained during an afternoon presentation. It's teaching us how to create permanent healing spaces. This matches ancient accounts of sacred sites where the very ground became imbued with healing properties. Lucy's mother, watching her daughter move confidently through the hospital corridors with the Mustang at her side, shared an insight with Dr. Rodriguez. When Lucy was first diagnosed, she told me she saw horses in her dreams building bridges, made of light. I think now I understand. They were bridges between different ways of healing. As evening approached, Lucy completed a new series of drawings that seemed to show the hospital itself transforming. The images depicted the building, surrounded by concentric rings of energy, each layer penetrating deeper into the structure. The Mustang, watching her work, seemed to nod in approval. Dr. Patel, reviewing the day's events with her team, realized they were witnessing something even more profound than they had initially understood. This isn't just about healing individual patients, she reflected. The Mustang is showing us how to transform the very nature of medical spaces. It's teaching us to create environments that heal by their very nature. The 10th day brought a surge of reports that left Memorial Hospital's research team in awe. As medical centers worldwide began implementing Lucy's healing patterns and the Mustang protocol, something extraordinary was happening. From Tokyo to Toronto, hospitals reported unexpected visits from wild animals at crucial moments of healing. A deer had wandered into a children's hospital in Stockholm, moving through the oncology ward in patterns identical to those of the Mustang. In Bangalore, a peacock appeared in a cardiac care unit, its movements tracing the same sacred geometries Lucy had drawn. A kangaroo in Melbourne found its way to a trauma centre, its presence coinciding with unprecedented patient recoveries. Dr. Patel's phone hadn't stopped ringing since dawn. "It's as if the Mustang was just the beginning," she told her assembled team. "What we're witnessing is the reawakening of an ancient partnership between the natural world and human healing." Lucy, hearing about these developments, showed no surprise. Her latest drawings had already depicted this global awakening, each page showing different animals, bringing healing to different parts of the world. When Dr. White asked how she had known, Lucy simply smiled. "The horse shows me in dreams. The earth is remembering how to heal itself." Dr. Santos's research team had begun correlating data from hospitals worldwide. The energy signatures they recorded showed remarkable consistency, regardless of the species of animal involved. Each creature seemed to access the same fundamental healing frequencies the Mustang had first revealed. "We're seeing the emergence of a global healing network," Dr. Santos explained, displaying a world map marked with points of activity. "These animals aren't just random visitors. They're part of a coordinated response to humanity's need for healing." The quantum physics team made another breakthrough. The combined energy patterns from all these healing sites, when mapped together, formed a geometric pattern that matched both Lucy's drawings and ancient sacred symbols found on every continent. Dr. Chen's calculations suggested these points were activating dormant energy lines in the Earth's electromagnetic field. Jack Whitehorse, who had been consulting with indigenous elders worldwide, shared their perspectives. "The old stories speak of a time when animals and humans worked together as healers," he explained. "What we're seeing isn't new. It's a remembering." In the pediatric ward, the Mustang's behavior had subtly changed. It spent more time by the windows, as if aware of its role in a larger movement. Its presence remained as powerful as ever. But there was a new quality to its interactions, a sense of teaching not just healing principles, but how to connect with this emerging global network. Sarah Chen's documentation project had expanded to include footage from hospitals worldwide. When viewed together, the videos revealed identical patterns of movement across different species and locations. The animals, despite their diverse forms, were all teaching the same language of healing. Dr. Reyes, working with an international team of anthropologists, discovered ancient texts that seemed to predict this moment. These manuscripts speak of a time when the barriers between human medicine and natural healing would dissolve, she explained. They describe it as a great awakening, led by animal guides. Lucy's role had evolved as well. Hospitals around the world began implementing healing spaces based on her drawings, reporting immediate improvements in patient outcomes. Her simple sketches had become blueprints for a new kind of medical facility, one that worked in harmony with natural healing energies. As evening approached, Lucy completed a new drawing that seemed to capture this global transformation. It showed the Earth surrounded by a web of light, with animals at key points acting as conduits for healing energy. The Mustang stood at the center, like a teacher who had started a movement that now rippled across the planet. Dr. Patel, addressing a global conference of medical professionals, summed up what many were beginning to understand. We're not just witnessing isolated incidents of healing. We're part of a planetary shift in how healing occurs. The Mustang didn't just come to heal one child or one hospital. It came to remind us of our place in a much larger web of life, where healing flows naturally between all living things. The 11th day at Memorial Hospital began with a phenomenon that transcended all previous understanding. As dawn broke over the Nevada desert, patients throughout the hospital reported experiencing the same dream, a vision of running with wild horses through star-filled skies, feeling the pulse of healing energy flowing through the earth. The Mustang, standing at its post in Lucy's room, seemed to glow with an inner light that the hospital's instruments struggled to measure. Doctor, preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Rodriguez, collecting accounts from patients and staff, noticed a pattern emerging. It's not just shared dreams, she explained to her colleagues. People are describing a new awareness of their own healing processes. They're actively participating in their recovery in ways we've never seen before. Lucy, whose own consciousness had been expanding throughout this journey, began describing healing processes in terms that merged modern medical understanding with ancient wisdom. Her latest drawings included annotations in multiple languages she had never studied, depicting healing concepts that matched medical traditions from across the world. The horse shows me that healing isn't just in our bodies, she explained to Dr. White during their morning session. It's in the space between thoughts, in the quiet place where everything connects. Dr. Santos's team recorded unprecedented changes in brainwave patterns throughout the hospital. Patients and staff alike showed increased coherence in their neural activity, matching frequencies that had previously only been documented in deep meditation states. More remarkably, these patterns appeared to synchronize with the Earth's natural electromagnetic field. We're seeing the emergence of a new level of consciousness, Dr. Santos reported. It's as if the Mustang's presence has activated dormant capabilities in human awareness, abilities to perceive and participate in healing energy directly. The quantum physics team, led by Dr. Chen, made a startling discovery. The coherent brainwave patterns, when mapped across the hospital population, created interference patterns that exactly matched Lucy's earliest drawings. She wasn't just drawing energy patterns, Dr. Chen realized. She was mapping the mathematics of consciousness itself. Throughout the day, medical staff reported increasing sensitivity to healing energies. Nurses found they could sense imbalances in patients before instruments detected them. Doctors described experiencing intuitive insights that led to more effective treatments. The barrier between healer and patient began to dissolve as a new understanding of collaborative healing emerged. Sarah Chen, documenting these changes, noticed something extraordinary in her footage. When viewed frame by frame, the air around people in the hospital seemed to shimmer with barely visible patterns. The same patterns Lucy had been drawing all along. The Mustang's influence had made visible what had always been present but unseen. Dr. Reyes, working with consciousness researchers worldwide, recognized parallels with ancient teachings about the evolution of human awareness. Every major spiritual tradition speaks of a time when humanity would remember its connection to the web of life, she explained. What we're witnessing isn't just a medical breakthrough, it's the awakening of an innate human capacity for healing consciousness. The children in the pediatric ward seemed to adapt to these changes most naturally. They began working with the healing energies intuitively, creating games that enhanced recovery rates and sharing insights that left the medical team astounded. The Mustang moved among them like a teacher, its presence guiding them deeper into this new awareness. As evening approached, Lucy created her most extraordinary drawing yet, a massive mandala that seemed to capture the very essence of conscious healing. Those who studied it reported spontaneous insights into their own healing processes. The Mustang, standing beside her as she worked, nickered softly in what seemed like approval. Dr. Patel, observing these developments, gathered her team for a profound discussion. "We're not just learning about new healing techniques," she reflected. "We're witnessing the evolution of human consciousness itself. The Mustang hasn't just come to heal bodies, it's here to awaken our understanding of what healing truly means." The night shift arrived to find the hospital bathed in an almost tangible sense of peace. Patients reported feeling connected to something larger than themselves, a web of consciousness that transcended individual healing to touch the very essence of wellness itself. The Mustang's gift, it seemed, was not just the healing of bodies, but the awakening of humanity's dormant potential for conscious participation in the miracle of recovery. The 12th day brought a transformation that would forever change the practice of medicine. As morning light filtered through Memorial Hospital's windows, the distinction between healer and patient began to blur in extraordinary ways. The Mustang, moving through its morning rounds, seemed to be orchestrating a profound shift in how healing itself occurred. Lucy, now strong enough to walk the hospital corridors unaided, had become a bridge between worlds. As she moved from room to room with the Mustang, she could articulate what the horse was teaching in ways that merged medical precision with intuitive understanding. "Every illness has a story," she explained to Dr. Rodriguez, "and every healing needs all the stories to work together." The pediatric ward had become a living laboratory of this new approach. Children who had once been passive recipients of treatment now actively participated in their healing processes. They could describe the flow of energy in their bodies with remarkable accuracy, often detecting imbalances before medical instruments could. "It's like they've developed a new sense," Dr. White observed, documenting their interactions. "And they're not just getting better, they're understanding how healing works at a fundamental level." Dr. Santos's research team recorded something unprecedented. When patients and medical staff worked together in this new consciousness, their combined brainwaves created harmonics that accelerated healing. The Mustang appeared to act as a conductor, its presence amplifying these healing frequencies to optimal levels. "We're seeing the emergence of what you might call collaborative healing," Dr. Santos explained during an emergency medical conference. "The traditional barriers between doctor and patient, between physical and energetic medicine, are dissolving into something far more effective. The hospital's treatment protocols began to evolve organically. Medical procedures were now timed to align with patients' natural energy rhythms. Surgical teams reported enhanced outcomes when they synchronized their consciousness with their patients before operations. Even the administration of medication seemed more effective when done with this new awareness. Sarah Chen's documentation captured moments of extraordinary connection. Her cameras recorded instances of spontaneous healing when groups of children, guided by their awakened awareness, worked together to help others. The Mustang would move among them, its presence somehow teaching them to refine and direct their natural healing abilities. Dr. Morrison, who had once been the hospital's most steadfast skeptic, found himself leading a research project on what he called conscious medicine. His team documented cases where patients, fully aware of their own healing processes, could actively participate in their treatment in ways that defied conventional medical understanding. Lucy's latest series of drawings mapped this new territory, between traditional medicine and awakened healing. Each image showed the intricate dance between physical treatment and energetic awareness, creating blueprints for a revolutionary approach to healthcare. The Mustang would stand watch as she worked, occasionally touching the drawings with its muzzle, as if confirming their accuracy. "The horse shows me that healing isn't something that happens to us," Lucy told Dr. Patel during their evening rounds. "It's something that happens with us, between us, through us. Everyone is both healer and healed." The impact on the hospital staff was profound. Nurses found they could work more effectively by trusting their awakened intuition alongside their medical training. Doctors reported experiencing deeper connections with their patients, leading to more accurate diagnoses and better treatment outcomes. Even the maintenance staff noticed they could sense when equipment needed attention before it showed signs of failure. As night fell, Dr. Reyes observed another remarkable phenomenon. The healing consciousness that had awakened in the hospital began to affect visitors as well. Family members sitting with patients reported experiencing the same expanded awareness, often leading to spontaneous healing in their own lives. "What we're seeing," Dr. Patel explained to her global colleagues, "is the birth of a new kind of medicine. One that honors both the precision of modern science and the wisdom of intuitive healing. The Mustang hasn't just taught us new techniques. It's shown us how to merge these approaches into something greater than either could be alone." The Mustang, standing in its usual place beside Lucy's bed, seemed to radiate a quiet satisfaction. Its mission, it appeared, was not just to heal one hospital or even to awaken healing consciousness. It was teaching humanity to bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and modern medicine, creating a new paradigm of healing that would transform healthcare forever. The 13th day at Memorial Hospital began with a discovery that defied all physical laws. The hospital's chief engineer, Robert Chang, arrived early to investigate reports of strange readings from the building's structural sensors. What he found would challenge everything he understood about architecture and healing spaces. The walls of the pediatric ward, where the Mustang had spent most of its time, showed measurable changes in their molecular structure. The very materials of the building appeared to be adapting, becoming more conducive to the flow of healing energy. Dr. Chen's quantum physics team quickly set up specialized equipment to document these unprecedented changes. "The building isn't just housing healing anymore," Dr. Chen explained, reviewing the data. "It's becoming an active participant in the healing process. The materials are reorganizing at a quantum level to better conduct and amplify healing frequencies." Lucy, who had been drawing patterns of architectural transformation for days, simply nodded when shown the evidence. "The horse says buildings. Remember," she told the astonished research team, "they learn how to help people heal just like we do." Throughout the day, similar reports began arriving from hospitals worldwide that had implemented the Mustang protocol. In Singapore, the walls of a children's hospital had begun to exhibit unusual properties, becoming naturally antimicrobial. In Switzerland, the glass windows of a rehabilitation center were found to be filtering light in ways that enhanced patient recovery. Dr. Santos's team discovered that these structural changes followed the exact patterns Lucy had drawn weeks earlier. She wasn't just drawing blueprints for healing spaces, Dr. Santos realized. She was mapping how consciousness could transform physical matter itself. The Mustang's movements through the hospital took on new significance. Each place it paused seemed to undergo subtle but measurable changes. Paint became more luminescent, metals more resonant, and even the air itself seemed to hold healing properties more effectively. Sarah Chen's cameras captured extraordinary footage of these transformations. Time-lapse recordings showed subtle waves of change moving through the building's structure, following the paths the Mustang had walked. The hospital was literally being rewritten at a molecular level. Dr. White, observing the children's reactions to these changes, noted something remarkable. "They can feel it happening," she reported. "They're describing the building as becoming more alive, more responsive to their needs. It's as if the structure itself is learning to participate in their healing." Hospital architects worldwide began consulting with Lucy, sharing their building plans for her input. Her simple suggestions led to dramatic improvements in patient outcomes. Traditional hospital designs were being revolutionized by the integration of these new principles of conscious architecture. "The walls want to help," Lucy explained while reviewing a set of blueprints. "They just needed to remember how." The Mustang standing nearby would touch certain points on the drawings with its muzzle, often leading to breakthrough insights in design. Dr. Patel organized a global conference of hospital administrators and architects to address these developments. "We're seeing the emergence of truly healing architecture," she explained, "buildings that don't just house medical care, but actively participate in the healing process." The transformation wasn't limited to new construction. Older hospital buildings, once exposed to these awakened healing energies, began showing similar changes. The process seemed to spread naturally, as if the structures themselves were learning from each other. Robert Chang, working with Dr. Chen's team, developed new ways to measure and facilitate these changes. "We're not just building hospitals anymore," he noted. "We're growing healing environments that evolve with their patients' needs." As evening approached, Lucy completed a new series of drawings that seemed to show the future of medical architecture. The images depicted buildings that were more than structures. They were living participants in the healing process, their very forms designed to channel and enhance natural healing energies. The Mustang, moving through the transformed spaces of Memorial Hospital, seemed to radiate a sense of accomplishment. Its mission had expanded beyond healing individuals or even awakening consciousness. It was teaching humanity how to create spaces that naturally nurtured healing, transforming the very foundation of how we approach medical care. Dr. Reyes, comparing Lucy's latest drawings with ancient architectural texts, found striking parallels. "The ancients knew about this," she explained. "They built healing temples that worked with natural energies. We're not just advancing medicine, we're remembering wisdom that was lost to time." The 14th day brought a revelation that extended far beyond Memorial Hospital's walls. City planners arriving for a routine inspection of the hospital grounds made an extraordinary discovery. The transformation that had begun inside the hospital had begun to ripple outward, affecting the surrounding environment in ways that defied explanation. The hospital gardens, once struggling in the harsh Nevada climate, had burst into unprecedented bloom. Plants grew with remarkable vigor, creating healing gardens that seemed to know exactly what properties were needed by patients. Dr. Rodriguez's team found that even the chemical composition of the plants had altered, producing compounds that perfectly complemented modern medicines. The healing isn't contained anymore, Dr. Santos explained, reviewing data from sensors placed throughout the neighborhood. It's as if the Mustang's presence has awakened something in the land itself, something that remembers how to nurture life. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Lucy, now strong enough for short walks outside, began creating drawings of the expanding healing influence. Her artwork showed concentric circles of energy radiating from the hospital, each ring affecting the environment in different ways. The Mustang, accompanying her on these walks, would pause at specific points that exactly matched the nodes of energy in her drawings. The impact on the surrounding community became impossible to ignore. Residents in neighboring buildings reported feeling more energized, more connected to their own well-being. Local doctors noticed their patients responding better to treatments, even in home care settings. The very air seemed charged with healing potential. We're seeing the emergence of what you might call healing neighborhoods, Dr. White observed, documenting the changes. The consciousness that awakened in the hospital is teaching the entire environment how to support wellness. Sarah Chen's cameras captured remarkable footage of wildlife returning to the area. Birds began nesting in patterns that matched Lucy's energy diagrams. Native plants, some not seen in decades, started emerging through cracks in the sidewalk. The natural world seemed to be responding to and amplifying the healing frequencies. Dr. Chen's quantum physics team discovered something extraordinary in their measurements. The energy patterns emanating from the hospital matched the Earth's natural electromagnetic frequencies, but at a higher amplitude. It's like the Mustang has shown us how to tune into and enhance the planet's own healing capabilities, he explained. The city's urban planning department, recognizing the implications, began consulting with the hospital team. Traditional zoning laws were being reconsidered in light of these discoveries. The concept of healing zones emerged, where architecture, nature, and human activity could work together to promote wellness. Lucy's latest drawings captured this expanded vision of healing spaces. She depicted cities where hospitals weren't isolated buildings, but centers of radiating health, their influence naturally extending through neighborhoods and communities. The Mustang would stand with her as she worked, its presence seeming to confirm the accuracy of her visions. The horse shows me that healing isn't supposed to have walls, she explained to Dr. Patel. It wants to flow everywhere, like water, finding its way home. The transformation began affecting city infrastructure in unexpected ways. Water quality improved in the surrounding area without any changes to treatment processes. Air pollution levels dropped, even with consistent traffic patterns. The environment itself seemed to be learning how to protect and nurture human health. Dr. Reyes, working with environmental scientists, found historical precedents for these changes. Ancient texts spoke of places where the boundary between healing spaces and the natural world dissolved, creating zones of enhanced wellness that affected entire communities. As evening approached, city officials gathered at the hospital to discuss the implications of these changes. The meeting was interrupted by an extraordinary sight. A herd of wild horses had appeared on the distant hills, their presence seeming to strengthen the healing energies emanating from the hospital. The Mustang, watching from the hospital gardens, nickered softly at the sight of its wild kin. Its mission, it seemed, had grown beyond the transformation of one hospital. It was showing humanity how to create entire landscapes of healing, where the boundary between healthcare and environment disappeared completely. Dr. Patel, addressing the gathered officials, captured the magnitude of what they were witnessing. We're not just seeing the future of medicine or architecture. We're witnessing the emergence of a new way of living, where every space has the potential to contribute to healing, and where the line between healing places and the world itself begins to fade. The 15th day at Memorial Hospital revealed yet another dimension of the Mustang's gift. As morning light filtered through the transformed gardens, the medical team began noticing changes that went beyond physical healing or environmental transformation. The very nature of human relationships within and around the hospital had begun to shift in extraordinary ways. Dr. Rodriguez first noticed it during morning rounds. Patients who had previously been strangers were now instinctively supporting each other's healing journeys. The barriers that typically existed between people in medical settings, fear, isolation, self-consciousness, seemed to dissolve naturally, replaced by a deep sense of connection and mutual support. It's as if we're witnessing the healing of human disconnection itself, she noted in her observations. The Mustang hasn't just taught us about physical healing, it's showing us how to rebuild the social fabric that supports wellness. Lucy, whose own journey had catalyzed these changes, found herself at the center of a growing web of relationships. Children from the pediatric ward, their families, hospital staff, and even visitors formed spontaneous healing circles, sharing experiences and supporting each other in ways that transcended traditional medical hierarchies. Everyone's story is part of everyone else's healing, Lucy explained, while creating a new series of drawings. These images depicted interconnected webs of light between people, showing how healing energy flowed not just through individuals, but through their relationships and connections. Dr. Santos's research team documented remarkable changes in group dynamics. When people gathered in the hospital's transformed spaces, their brainwaves synchronized in patterns that enhanced collective healing. The Mustang would move through these gatherings, its presence somehow strengthening these connections. We're seeing the emergence of what you might call community healing networks, Dr. Santos reported. The boundaries between individual and collective wellness are dissolving, creating a new model of healthcare that recognizes the social nature of healing. The impact spread beyond the hospital walls. Neighborhoods surrounding Memorial Hospital reported spontaneous formation of support groups and healing circles. People who had lived as strangers for years found themselves naturally drawn together, sharing resources and creating communities focused on collective well-being. Sarah Chen's cameras captured countless moments of unexpected connection. Former patients returned to volunteer, drawn by an inexplicable sense of purpose. Local businesses began adapting their practices to support the healing environment. The entire community seemed to be reorganizing itself around principles of mutual care and support. Dr. White observed that these social transformations followed patterns similar to those seen in the physical environment. Just as the building materials have become more conducive to healing, human relationships are becoming more naturally therapeutic, she noted. It's as if we're remembering how to be medicine for each other. The children in the pediatric ward became natural leaders in this social transformation. Their innocent wisdom about connection and healing spread to their families, then outward into the community. They created games and rituals that helped people remember how to support each other's wellness. The Mustang's behavior shifted subtly to support these changes. It began positioning itself at points where people naturally gathered, its presence somehow facilitating deeper connections and understanding between individuals. Dr. Reyes recognized these patterns from ancient descriptions of communal healing practices. Indigenous traditions have always known that healing happens in community, she explained during an afternoon session. What we're seeing is the re-emergence of this wisdom in a modern context. As word spread, other communities worldwide began reporting similar transformations. Hospitals that had implemented the Mustang protocol found their surrounding neighborhoods naturally evolving into healing communities. The paradigm of isolated medical facilities was giving way to an understanding of healthcare as a communal journey. Lucy's mother, observing these changes, shared a memory with Dr. Patel. When Lucy was first diagnosed, what scared me most was feeling alone. Now I understand. The healing she needed wasn't just medical. It was the healing of that aloneness for all of us. As evening approached, the hospital hosted a spontaneous gathering in the gardens. Patients, staff, families, and community members came together, drawn by an intuitive understanding of their connection. The Mustang moved among them, its presence a reminder of the force that had catalyzed these changes. Dr. Patel, watching the interaction, realized they were witnessing something profound. We've been thinking of healing as something that happens to individuals in isolated medical spaces, she reflected. But the Mustang has shown us that true healing is a community journey. We're not just treating illness anymore, we're remembering how to be well together. The 16th day at Memorial Hospital began with an atmosphere of anticipation. Something had shifted in the Mustang's demeanor, a change that Lucy seemed to understand before anyone else. As dawn broke over the transformed hospital grounds, she began creating a series of drawings, unlike anything she'd produced before. "It's time to remember the biggest part," she announced to Dr. Rodriguez, her hands moving across the paper with unprecedented certainty. The images she created showed the Earth itself as a living healing system, with hospitals transformed into nodes of conscious healing energy, connected by lines of force that followed the planet's magnetic field. The Mustang's behavior confirmed the significance of these drawings. It moved through the hospital with new purpose, pausing at specific points that, when mapped by Dr. Chen's team, formed a pattern matching Earth's major ley lines. The quantum measurements taken at these points showed frequencies that resonated with the planet's own electromagnetic field. "We're seeing the final piece of the puzzle," Dr. Santos explained, correlating data from hospitals worldwide. "The Mustang hasn't just been teaching us about healing individuals or communities, it's been preparing us to understand healing on a planetary scale." Throughout the day, reports flowed in from medical centers across the globe. Each facility that had implemented the Mustang protocol was experiencing similar revelations. The healing transformations they'd witnessed in their local environments were beginning to synchronize, creating a network of wellness that spanned continents. Dr. White, observing the children in the pediatric ward, noticed they had begun incorporating these global patterns into their play. Their games naturally evolved to include elements that mimicked the flow of healing energy around the planet. The Mustang would watch these activities with evident approval, occasionally guiding their movements with gentle nudges. "The children understand instinctively what we're struggling to grasp intellectually," Dr. White noted. "They're playing out patterns of planetary healing as naturally as breathing." Sarah Chen's documentation captured extraordinary moments of synchronicity. When patients in different parts of the world engaged in healing activities simultaneously, the effects seemed to amplify exponentially. The Mustang's presence at Memorial Hospital appeared to serve as a conductor for these global harmonics. Lucy's latest drawings revealed another layer of understanding. They showed how the transformed hospitals could work together to help heal environmental damage, restore natural balance, and support the Earth's own healing processes. The Mustang would stand beside her as she worked, its presence seeming to confirm the accuracy of each image. "The horse shows me that everything is one big body," Lucy explained to Dr. Patel. "When we heal ourselves, we help heal the Earth. When we help heal the Earth, it helps heal us. It's all the same medicine." Dr. Reyes, working with environmental scientists and indigenous elders, found ancient prophecies that appeared to predict this moment. Many traditions speak of a time when humanity would remember its role as stewards of planetary healing, she explained. These events seem to be the fulfillment of those prophecies. As evening approached, Dr. Chen's team made a breakthrough in understanding the mathematics behind these global patterns. The healing frequencies they'd been measuring formed a perfect fractal pattern, repeating from the cellular level to the planetary scale. The Mustang's teachings had been showing them this unity all along, one layer at a time. The hospital community gathered in the gardens for what felt like a momentous occasion. The Mustang stood at the center of the gathering, its presence more commanding than ever. Lucy, sitting nearby, began to share what she understood about the final phase of transformation. "The horse says we're ready now," she told the assembled crowd. "Ready to be part of the Earth's healing team. All the pieces are in place. The remembered buildings, the connected people, the awakened land. Now we just need to help it all work together." Dr. Patel, addressing her global colleagues via video conference, summarized the magnitude of what they were witnessing. "We've been given more than new medical techniques or healing principles. We've been shown our place in a living system of wellness that encompasses everything from individual cells to the entire planet. The Mustang's gift isn't just about healing disease, it's about remembering our role in the health of all life." The 17th day brought the first glimpses of what planetary healing truly meant. As morning light touched Memorial Hospital, the global network of transformed medical centers began to pulse with synchronized energy. The Mustang, standing at attention in the hospital gardens, seemed to be listening to a symphony that only it could fully hear. Lucy's health had been fully restored, but her role was far from over. Her latest drawings mapped something unprecedented, the emergence of what she called Earth's healing breath. The images showed how the network of transformed hospitals could work in harmony with the planet's natural rhythms to address environmental imbalances and support global wellness. "It's like the Earth is remembering how to heal itself," she explained to Dr. Rodriguez, "and we're remembering how to help." The Mustang, standing nearby, nickered softly in agreement, its presence somehow amplifying the connection between human consciousness and planetary healing forces. Dr. Santos's research team recorded extraordinary data from around the world. When healing activities aligned across multiple locations, they generated harmonics that could influence weather patterns, accelerate the restoration of damaged ecosystems, and even calm geological instabilities. "We're witnessing the emergence of a planetary immune system," Dr. Santos reported during an emergency global conference. "The transformed hospitals are acting like acupuncture points on the Earth's surface, helping to balance and direct healing energy on a global scale." The children in the pediatric ward had become natural practitioners of this new healing art. Their games and activities, guided by intuitive understanding, created ripples of healing energy that contributed to the larger patterns. The Mustang moved among them like a teacher, showing them how to refine and direct their innate abilities. Sarah Chen's documentation captured the first major demonstration of this planetary healing network in action. When a series of wildfires threatened a wildlife preserve in Australia, the coordinated focus of healing centers worldwide helped generate rain patterns that gently extinguished the blazes while nourishing the parched earth. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Dr. Chen's quantum physics team made another breakthrough in understanding the mechanics of these global effects. "The network operates on principles of quantum entanglement," he explained. "When enough consciousness aligns with healing intent, it can influence physical reality on a massive scale." Lucy's role had evolved from patient to teacher. Hospitals worldwide sought her guidance in understanding how to participate in this planetary healing network. Her drawings became instruction manuals for a new kind of medicine that operated at both the individual and global levels. "The horse shows me that healing is like a dance," she told Dr. White during one of their sessions. "Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow, but you always move with the music of the earth." The Mustang's behavior reflected the expanding scope of this transformation. It would often stand perfectly still, its attention focused on distant points around the globe where healing was needed. The network would respond to these silent signals, directing healing energy where it was most required. Dr. Reyes, working with climate scientists and indigenous elders, began documenting cases where this coordinated healing consciousness had measurable effects on environmental challenges. Polluted waters showed signs of natural purification. Endangered species began returning to restored habitats. The Earth itself seemed to be responding to this reawakened partnership with humanity. As evening approached, the hospital community gathered for what felt like a culminating moment. The Mustang stood at the center of the garden, its presence more magnificent than ever. Lucy, sitting beside it, began sharing the final pieces of understanding about humanity's role in planetary healing. "We're part of the Earth's healing team now," she explained to the assembled crowd. "The horse came to help us remember, but the power was always here, in the land, in our hearts, in the connection between all living things." Dr. Patel, addressing a global audience of medical professionals and environmental scientists, captured the profound implications of what they had learned. "We haven't just discovered a new form of medicine. We've remembered our place in the living system of Earth itself. The Mustang has shown us that true healing must encompass everything, from the smallest cell to the entire planet. And now, at last, we're ready to take our place as conscious participants in the Earth's own healing journey." The 18th day at Memorial Hospital dawned with an air of completion. The Mustang stood in the morning light, its coat shimmering with an almost ethereal quality, while Lucy sat beside it, creating her final drawing. Something in their shared demeanor told everyone present that they were witnessing the closing of one chapter and the beginning of another. Lucy's last artwork was unlike anything she had created before. A single image that somehow captured the entire journey from that first extraordinary morning when the Mustang arrived to the global awakening it had inspired. The drawing seemed to shift and change as people viewed it, each observer seeing something uniquely meaningful to their own healing journey. "It's not goodbye," Lucy explained to Dr. Rodriguez, who had noticed tears forming in her eyes. "The horse says it's graduation day. We've learned what we needed to learn, and now it's time to be the teachers." Throughout the morning, the hospital filled with an unprecedented gathering, patients whose lives had been transformed, medical staff who had witnessed the impossible, researchers who had documented the inexplicable, and community members who had been part of the growing healing network. All felt drawn to be present for what they somehow knew would be a momentous day. Dr. Santos's final readings showed something remarkable. The healing frequencies that had once required the Mustang's presence to maintain were now self-sustaining. The transformed hospital, its staff, and even the surrounding community had become capable of generating and directing these energies on their own. The Mustang wasn't just healing us, Dr. Santos realized, studying her data. It was teaching us to be healers ourselves, not just of bodies, but of the whole living system we're part of. The children from the pediatric ward organized themselves into a circle in the hospital gardens, intuitively understanding the significance of the moment. They began sharing stories of their experiences, each tale adding to a tapestry of transformation that had forever changed their understanding of healing. Sarah Chen's cameras captured the extraordinary events that followed. The Mustang moved through the gathered crowd, touching each person briefly with its muzzle. With each contact, Individuals reported experiencing a profound sense of completion. Dream, as if receiving a final lesson, a key to unlock everything they had learned. Dr. White, observing these interactions, noted that each person's healing abilities seemed to strengthen after their moment with the Mustang. "It's leaving us with more than memories," she observed. "It's ensuring that its teachings will continue through each person it has touched." As afternoon approached, Lucy shared what she understood about this transition. "The horse says we don't need guides anymore. We've remembered how to read the book of healing that's written in everything, in our bodies, in the land, in the sky, in each other. Now we just need to keep practicing what we've learned." The Mustang's final gift came as the sun began to set. Standing in the center of the garden, surrounded by the community it had helped create, it began to move in a pattern that matched the very first drawing Lucy had ever made. As it completed the circle, something shifted in the consciousness of everyone present, a deep understanding that they were now part of an unbroken circle of healing that stretched from the smallest cellular interaction to the vast rhythms of the planet itself. Then, with a gentle nicker that seemed to echo in both sound and spirit, the Mustang turned toward the distant mountains. The gathered crowd watched in awe as it began to walk away, its form seeming to shimmer and merge. With the evening light, other wild horses appeared on the horizon, welcoming their kin back to the desert. Lucy, standing with her mother and Dr. Patel, smiled through her tears. "It's perfect," she said. "We had to learn to let go of the teacher to become what we were, taught." The hospital continued its work, but nothing was the same after the Mustang's visit. The transformed building, the awakened healing abilities, the connected community, and the global network of conscious healthcare remained as living testaments to its time there. More importantly, the understanding it had brought, that healing was a dance between individual wellness and planetary health, became the foundation for a new chapter in human medicine. Dr. Patel, writing in the hospital's official record that evening, found words for what they had all experienced. The Mustang came not just to heal, but to remind us of what we had forgotten, that we are all part of Earth's healing team. Every person, every place, every moment carries the potential for transformation. Our task now is to carry forward this understanding, to be the healers our world needs us to be. And so the story of the wild Mustang that broke into a hospital became more than just a tale of miracle healings. It became a turning point, a remembering, a return to an ancient understanding that healing is not just something that happens to us, but something we participate in together. A dance of consciousness, compassion, and connection that encompasses all of life itself. Up next, you got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.